Hey everyone, if you're in the market for a RowErg, then you've undoubtedly heard of the gold standard of the Concept2 RowErg. But if you're watching this video, you're probably wondering if there is a more budget-friendly option that will then allow you to spend more money on other pieces of equipment in your home gym. And so today, we are gonna compare the Concept2 RowErg to the Merach Nova Fit R50, a bit more of a budget-friendly option. So we're gonna talk through the main features and benefits of each of these to help you understand which is best. But let's start with the thing that's probably most important to you, and that is going to be your budget and how much each of these cost. On the RowErg website, the Concept2 RowErg at the time of recording this costs $990 plus shipping. So that's gonna take you over $1,000 to get this piece of equipment versus the Merach NovaRow R50 costing $680 with free shipping, and you can also save 25% with my discount code Barbell25, which is going to take that price down into the low 500s. So you're really looking at a price that is about half of the Concept2 if you go with Merach's air resistance RowErg. And so of course the big question there is, at half of the price, is there any way that that RowErg can compete with the Concept2? So let's break that down. What we're gonna first talk about is just our overall footprint of both of these machines, which are really very similar. So your Concept2 and your Nova Fit from a length perspective. Your NovaRow is gonna be 1 inch longer overall with pretty much the exact same track length as your Concept2. Their height difference in terms of where the track is vertically are within a ½ inch of each other. Their width are the exact same. So really from a size perspective and the footprint that it takes up, pretty much the same machines here. They both have a nickel-plated chain, and they both rely on air resistance with a damper that can be adjusted from 0 to 10 to adjust your resistance. So very similar in those aspects. Now let's jump into the differences. So one of the bigger differences that you're gonna find between these two is that the Concept2 is made of both aluminum and steel versus the NovaRow, according to their website, is steel in its base. And so they come with actually a decent weight difference. The Concept2 RowErg weighs 57 pounds versus the NovaRow weighs 72 pounds. And while rowing, we're just going straight forward and back and we're not trying to get much side to side movement there, we have to appreciate that sometimes you're gonna lean one way or another. You are going to get some horizontal movement here. That's not really killer on your long, slow rows, but when you get to your more all-out sprints, you might notice a little bit more instability on the Concept2 compared to the NovaRow. So if I just put my hand on the fan here and I give it a little side-to-side wiggle, you can see that I get a decent amount of jiggle there. When I come over here to the NovaRow and give it the same amount of jiggle, same amount of force, we get less jiggle overall. Stability is not a huge thing when it comes to a rower, but I do think it's worth noting that the Merake is a little bit more stable overall. The next thing that we need to compare is going to be the monitor. There are two big differences between the two monitors here. Number one is going to be that the Merach NovaRow actually allows you to connect via Bluetooth with a heart rate monitor. I love that because so often when I'm doing my longer aerobic rows, I want to make sure that I'm staying in a certain heart rate. And I love the fact that I can just look straight forward at the monitor and see where my heart rate is as I'm working out on that. When I do the same on my Concept2, what I have to do is wear my heart rate monitor across my chest and then take my watch off and I have to tie it down to my handle. And then as I'm rowing, I'm looking down at my watch every now and then to make sure I'm staying in the heart rate zone that I want. So it is nicer to just be able to look at the screen from that perspective. So there's a benefit of the Merach RowErg. Beyond that, they're both gonna tell you the same information. So they're both gonna tell you the total time you've been rowing, what your 500-meter pace is, what your distance is, your calories, your strokes per minute, and your wattage. The difference though between these two is on the Concept2, you can adjust the screen so that you're seeing the factors that are most important for you. On the NovaRow, it alternates between two screens. And so every 3-ish seconds, the screen switches to the other one. And so let's say that you're rowing and you're trying to maintain a certain wattage, you're gonna see that wattage on screen for a couple reps, and then it's gonna switch to the other screen and you're not gonna be able to see your wattage for a few seconds before it switches back. That is not a killer thing in workouts, but I do have to say that I prefer the ability to choose which version I want, which metric I'm tracking in that workout, and having that be in big letters right in front of me, it makes it a little bit easier for me and the way that I train to have the Concept2 Row. While we're on the topic of monitors, it's also worth noting that the Merake rower has an application for your smartphone as well that allows for a couple of cool features. You can row on 2D and 3D maps of different rows around the world, and you can also jump into races against other people live. So I think that's pretty cool if you're into that sort of stuff. The way I train, I'm going at specific time intervals at different wattages to try to work on specific fitness metrics, but I could see that being a fun experience for some people. The next difference that we should discuss is going to be on the foot straps between these two. So your Concept2 has a really thin foot strap that you pull to tighten. And the way I row as a CrossFit athlete is I don't get that down very tight on my feet. I keep it a little bit loose. So I keep 2 to 3 fingers width between my foot and the strap, which is gonna allow me to easily kick my foot in and out of that. So I could see the difference between this thin strap here and the much thicker, wider strap on the NovaRow, that if you're somebody that really cinches that down, the wider strap might actually be a little bit more comfortable because the pressure is dispersed over more tissues. And so it might not feel like it's digging into you quite as much. But for the way I row and the way most CrossFit athletes should row without having that cinch down, that is not an issue that I see. We do have a Velcro strap over here. I've not had the Merach row long enough to comment on the durability of it, but I do really like how quick it is compared to the Concept2 to lengthen this out. When you have to push out and then pull, versus the NovaRow, just quickly grab these D-rings. And those D-rings are pretty big. So unloading your foot out of this really, really easy. When I do the 3-finger space, I will say because it's a little bit wider, that does make sometimes getting my foot back into it just a little bit stiffer. So I give myself a little bit of extra room. On the Concept2, usually I'm 2 fingers between my foot and the strap. On the Merach row, I'm 3 fingers, and that still allows me to get in and out relatively fast there. Another difference is going to be on the handles. So your Concept2 rower, the handle here is pretty tacky. And I'll be honest, I like that tackiness in most CrossFit workouts, but I don't like it when I'm doing my really long rower training sessions, which very frequently I will be on the rower for 40 to 60 minutes, just really trying to build up my conditioning base. And what I find is that tackiness goes away. And when my hands get sweaty, I'm having to stop rowing and chalk up to be able to keep a firm, solid grip on that. The Merach NovaRow has a much softer handle on it, but as my hands get sweatier, I don't feel like that sweat impedes my grip quite as much. Not a massive difference between the two, but that is worth noting. Now, one of the massive differences between these two is going to be the seat. And this is one that undoubtedly the Merach NovaRow wins at. All the other stuff, you kind of have some back and forth on which is better or which is not. The seat, undoubtedly. Merach row has this nice seat. It's plush and cushiony, so it has a little bit of give, but not so much that you feel like you're just sinking into it. Versus your Concept2 has very little give. It's a very firm seat. Even when I had the seat cushion on it, it's still pretty firm. And again, I often do these 40 to 60 minute long row sessions. When I get off the Concept2, my butt is numb for hours afterwards. The Merach row is so much more forgiving, so much more comfortable that seat is just a delight to be on compared to the Concept2. So clear winner over there. Next, let's talk about the overall feel and the rowing experience on both of these rowers. To be honest with you, they're both very, very similar outside of the small differences that we've talked about so far. You're not going to notice a massive difference outside of one factor, and that is that the Merach NovaRow, the chain tends to pull you back a little bit more aggressively than your Concept2 rower. Now, to be clear, I don't think that impacts your form at all. I don't think it makes it better or worse, but the first time you get on this, you're going to think that it feels a little bit weird. Let me demonstrate that for you. So I'm going to pull both of these handles out to where the handle is sitting right over kind of the end of the slide here, or the beginning of the slide. And I'm going to let go of both of these handles at once. And what you're going to notice is that the Merach NovaRow, that handle is going to go back to the base a lot faster than the Concept2. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Flew back a lot faster than the Concept2. Again, doesn't really impact your form, but it is worth noting. All right, let's put all of that together. Monitors. pluses and negatives to each of those. Foot straps, a little bit of pluses and negatives to each of those. Overall size, exact same pretty much. Seat, clear winner, the Merach NovaRow. Price, winner, Merach NovaRow. If I'm a competitive athlete and I'm trying to put out, world record scores on a rower or something like that, this is your gold standard in the rowing world, and it's what people are going to look at for that. But if you're looking for a more budget-friendly option at half price, I've been absolutely thrilled with the Merach NovaRow. I was skeptical of that price range being something that delivered quality, and I have not at all been disappointed by it in the last month of having this and doing many rowing sessions in that time period. So check it out. If you want to save a little bit more money on the Merach NovaRow, be sure to use my discount code BARBELL25 at checkout. See the link in the bio as well.